In this video, you'll learn how to create quizzes in Desire2Learn. There is more than one way to create a quiz. The easiest is to go to the Content area. Go to the module where you want the quiz to be, click the Upload Create button, and select New Quiz. Give the quiz a name. Click the Publish button to save the quiz and make it visible to students. If you aren't ready to make it visible to students, click the Save as Draft button. To set up the rest of the quiz, click the Quiz Setup button. The category setting is not referring to the gradebook category for the quiz. This category is a way to organize the quiz in the quizzes list. To add questions to your quiz, click the Add Edit Questions button. You can either create the questions using the New button and selecting the appropriate question type. Then fill out the question information and click the Save button. Or you can copy questions from your question library or another quiz, or bring questions in from a test bank export using the Import button. If you're bringing questions from a test bank export, you would choose the Upload File option and follow the prompts. To copy questions from your question library or another quiz, choose the Browse Question Library option. To see the questions in a section, click the arrow to the left of its title. You can search for questions with certain words using the search box. You can change where you're looking for questions using the Source drop-down menu. You can also filter questions by type, or sort the questions in different ways. To select all the questions in a section, check the box to the left of the section title. Then click the Add button. You will now see that section added to the quiz. If you're done adding questions, click the Done Editing Questions button. You can choose to have a certain number of questions per page, and you can also choose to not allow students to go back to a previous page. You can choose to have the questions shuffled or randomized by checking the Shuffle Order box. To apply the changes, click the Save button. You can tell which questions are being shuffled with the arrow icon to the left of the questions. As you can see, questions inside of sections do not get shuffled. To change this, click the Add Edit Questions button. You have two choices. You don't need to do both of the things shown here, just pick one. If you'd like to keep your questions in the current sections, click the arrow to the right of the section's title. Choose Edit, and check the option to shuffle the questions in that section, and click the Save button. The other option, if you don't need the questions to stay in their sections, is to move them out of their sections. Click on the section title. Make sure all the questions are on one page, then check the Select All box. Click the Move link, and click the Collection Route link. Go back out to the main question area, and delete the empty section. After you have finished one of those options, click the Done Editing Questions button. All of your questions will now be shuffled. There are places for a description, introduction, and page headers and footers. If you need to add any of those things, click the link to expand the appropriate area and fill them out. Be sure to review the optional advanced properties and set them to fit your needs. You can either scroll back to the top of the page or click the Save button. The Save button will save your settings and return you to the top of the page. Clicking another tab at the top of the page will also save your settings. Click the Restrictions tab. When creating the quiz, if you clicked the Publish button, your quiz will be active. This means students can see the quiz. If you clicked Save as Draft, your quiz will be inactive. This means students can't see the quiz. You have to set the setting to active when you're ready for the students to see the quiz, regardless of the date settings you set. The due date is used when you allow for late submissions of quizzes. If you do not allow quizzes to be submitted after their end date, do not use this option. If you do allow for late submissions, check the Has Due Date checkbox and set the due date and time. You can set what dates the students can start and stop taking the quiz and whether to show these dates in the course calendar by checking the appropriate boxes. If you require students to use the Respond as Lockdown browser, you will need to set those options in the Lockdown browser and monitor dashboard found in the assessment menu under Quizzes. Next, set the timing options for the quiz. If you want a time limit to be enforced, choose the Enforce a Time Limit option and set the time limit to the appropriate amount of time for your quiz. The grace period is the amount of time the user has after the time limit expires to submit their quiz. You have to enter at least 1 minute. Now you need to choose what you want to have happen when the time limit and the grace period are up. The first option allows students to continue working on the quiz. The second option will not allow students to answer any more questions or to change any of their answers. The third option will automatically give the students a 0 if they go over all time limits plus an amount of time you specify when you select that option. The special access area is where you can allow students different time limits or dates to take the quiz. It's also where you can specify that the quiz is only viewable by selected students. Click the Save button to return to the top. Click the Assessment tab. Select the Automatic Grade option if you want the student's attempt to be marked as graded as soon as they click the Submit button. This is required if you want to allow students to review their attempts. You can select a grade item from the drop-down list or create a new grade item using the Add Grade Item link. After you have attached a grade item, you can choose to have the grade auto-export to the gradebook by checking the Auto Export to Grades checkbox. You can set the number of attempts allowed and which score the system should take. Go back to the top. Click the Submission Views tab. Submission views are what the student sees when they are done taking the quiz. The student always will see the default view after each attempt, but you can set up additional views based on the attempt they're on or release a view at a later date. To set up the default submission view, click the Default View link. You can edit the message the student sees. You can also decide if they're allowed to see the questions, if they got them right or wrong, what they answered, the correct answer, and their total score. If you don't want them to see any of that, keep the No option selected. You are able to allow them to see their score by keeping the Score option checked. You can also allow them to see the class average and score distribution. When you're done, click the Save button. To add an additional view, click the Add Additional View button. Give the view a name. You can add a message for this view also. You can choose when the view will start. Dated views are useful when you want to allow the students to review after the test closes, or if you only want to review for a certain number of days. If you want the quiz to only be viewable for a certain amount of time after the student submits, check the Limited Duration option. This should only be used if you're allowing the review to happen immediately after the quiz is taken. Notice the wording states it is limited to a certain amount of time after the quiz is submitted. Then you have all the same settings you did in the default view. When you're done with your settings, click the Save button. Your additional view will be added under the Add Additional View button. To delete a view, check the box next to it and click the Trash Can button. The next tab at the top is the Report Setup tab. It seems like something you would want to work on but most of the reports you can set up are things you're going to be able to see in the statistics area. Often the Report Setup tab just causes confusion, so we suggest avoiding it. Feel free to contact online education support with any questions. You are now done setting up the quiz. Click the Save and Close button. To preview how the quiz will look to students, click the Preview button. The Bypass Restrictions checkbox is what will allow you to take the quiz even if it is not currently open to students. If you uncheck that box, you'll be able to ensure the current restrictions on the quiz are working properly. Make sure all your notes and settings look right. If you click the Start Quiz button, you can take the quiz. When you are done previewing the quiz, click the Return to Content button. The Content area is not the only place you can see the quizzes you create. If you go to the Assessments menu and choose Quizzes, you'll see a list of all the quizzes in the course. Students can also access this area. You can edit a quiz from here by clicking on its title. Sometimes you might see various icons next to the quiz title depending on the settings you have set on that quiz. The word Inactive will be next to any quiz that is not currently visible to students. A lock indicates there is a password on the quiz, and a key indicates there are special access settings for individual students. A circle with a line through it indicates this quiz is only visible to specific students. Those are the basics of creating a quiz in Desire2Learn.